could very well save your life.
Alrighty, guys. What is up? Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. Hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear. Today we're going to touch on the Travis Decker manhunt. We're going to give you the updates on the baby Emanuel Haro case. We're going to talk a little bit about Ed Kemper. And once again, compartmentalized killers. We're going to talk about Aleister Crowley and his created religion Thelema, and maybe even tie that into Richard Allen, and we'll kind of segue into what I think happened there at the crime scene in Delphi. But before we get into that, let's see how everybody's doing. Thank you, Mark. Looks like the audio is good. Phil Bond, it's good to see you. Louise, Red Queen. And Mark, I hope it's okay if I show your the photographs that you sent or that you posted on the Discord and the little video, because I did plan to show that. But if you have an objection, just let me know. Thank you, Red. Jake, the face of true, delicate, tender coward, true evil. She Warrior, how you doing? Hey, Miss Dog Lover with the 8-month flex. Probably got much more than that. Thank you for your support. Hey, Sleuth. Hope Miss Sleuth and Baby are doing good. Guys, she is ready to burst. I mean, we're literally just waiting. We're just waiting. What's up, Timmy? Mark says, yes, all good. I have videos on my channels as well. If you'd like to. It's about the missing and murdered. Sure. I didn't know you had a channel. Appreciate it. All right, let's pull up. We're going to start with Travis Decker. Remember, he is still a wanted man. Trying to share my screen. There you go. So they're back. They are back, and they're looking right here in the same area that he committed the murders. Now, remember, we were doing some geo-profiling. What are some of the ideas that I was throwing out at you guys? Based off his training, I thought it wouldn't be that crazy or far-fetched to believe that he was still there. He was trained to throw off the scent of dogs. He's trained to hide from thermal cameras. And he knows how to survive off the wild while living under the elements. He's trained in all of that. So he could have been underground. And think about it. All he would have to do is wait about a week. Right? If he can hide and evade capture for 1 week, maybe 2, he'd be good. Then he can begin to slowly move around this area. Right? Nobody's going to expect him to just be right there. So I'm wondering if we could have been right about that. You know, maybe he was able to evade capture. They ran out of resources or just assumed that he's gone. And they wrapped it up. Red says, did I hear they closed off the area where the Decker girls were found? Or did I? Yeah, they did. We're going to play a quick little local media clip as well on that. Actually, we can do that now. I'll skip the introduction. You guys are very familiar with this case. So, but another update in regards to Travis Decker. They 100% have now verified he's the one and only suspect. They found his DNA on the bags that were used, on the zip ties. They found his DNA on everything that was there at the crime scene. Nothing else, just him and the girls.
Only confirming that they asked the National Forest Service to close the Rock Island campground starting Sunday. Our law enforcement analyst believes something may have come up within the last few days, leading to a brand new search. The bodies of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker were found May 30th in a remote area west of Leavenworth.
Yeah, keep it up, Mark.
Now is
good job.
All of a sudden, after several months, that they're up there looking for evidence. And that's what we really don't know.
King 5 law enforcement analyst and former King County Sheriff John Urquhart can only lean on his decades of experience in trying to figure out why the FBI is abruptly shutting down the Rock Island campground and trails just a short distance from where the bodies were found.
I mean, look at this place. If he could somehow just kind of walk along the water, and then when he leaves the water, somehow he can hide his trail to evade the dogs, right? Using different techniques that we've covered before. Let me see if I still have those. Let's see. Tricking thermal cameras and dogs. Okay, so the dense forest and rocky outcrops in Washington, Idaho mountains provide natural cover. Decker could hide under thick trees, tree canopies, in caves, and behind boulders, which block or diffuse heat signatures. Evergreen trees, common in this region, are particularly effective at masking heat due to their density. So he's already has natural cover just from the trees. The trees are already on his side when it comes to the thermal stuff, but it's the dogs. Like, how do you evade the dogs? Those bloodhounds. Let's see, water crossings. The region has numerous streams, rivers, and lakes near the Cascades or Selkirk Mountains. Decker could wade through water for long distances to break the scent trail, exiting at unpredictable points to confuse dogs. So for whatever reason, if he can get far enough and trick the dogs, and then maybe make some kind of an underground shelter or find a cave, maybe block the entrance, he could evade everything for up to a week or two. And then as soon as they leave, he can begin to get comfortable. People might start seeing signs of him, right? People trapping up there in the woods, fishing, maybe some trash or debris.
The plan is to keep the area closed between Sunday and Wednesday.
What that tells me is they know what they're looking for, or they have a good idea of where it is.
Yep, Washington.
They can go in there, they can go to the area, they can get what they hope to find. Maybe they will.
Yeah, let me pull up the map for you. Hey, John. Yeah, that's what most people who what do they call them? I don't want to call them end timers. This is another word for them. Preppers. There we go. Preppers, what they do a lot of times is they talk about having another vehicle somewhere, outside of a certain grid. So they expect during some type of apocalyptic scenario that all the cities will be gridlocked, right? Your vehicles are going to be useless. All the roads will be jammed, and you'll be stuck. So what they recommend is keeping a vehicle outside that grid. That way you could hike out maybe 14 miles outside the city, and then you have a vehicle there, right? With all your bug out gear. So yeah, that's a good thought right there, John. So he's been prepping this whole time. He's been living out in the woods, I think, what was it, at least a month or two? Do you guys know right off the top of your head? He was living in those woods for at least a month, I believe. So that entire time he could have been packing propane, he could have been making some kind of an underground shelter, stocking it filled with supplies, commits the murder, and then puts his plan into play. But I think it's really likely that he never left to begin with. Or they suspect that he's deceased. One of the two. What's up, Danielle? How are you? Fishy, what's going on? All right, there we are, smack dab in the mountains, Rock Island Campground. Look at this place. It wouldn't be hard, really, guys. If you have the training and you had the time to kind of prepare for this, wouldn't be hard at all. Like, it looks like rugged terrain, but if you were to just kind of take your time and you had enough water and food and some kind of a shelter, I mean, you can make your way all the way up this mountain in like probably 4 or 5 hours. Easily. Even like an older person probably could if they took their time.
Well, maybe they won't, and get back out again.
Investigators say the girl's dad, Travis Decker, took them in Wenatchee before he killed them. He hasn't been seen since, but Urquhart does not.
All right, Hiawatha says almost 3 months. That's plenty of time to prepare. He could have stocked up that entire time.
Not believe the latest development is related to any sightings.
If they thought he was in the area, they're not going to announce that they're going in over the weekend, and they're not going to leave people up there. They'll be up there cleaning them out right now. So that really...
Look at this area, these huge canyons. All he has to do is kind of probably hike maybe 3-4 miles back here, find a shelter right off the creek, hide that small little area that he walks from the water to his shelter. He would just have to mask the scent, keep the dogs from tracking him, and then wait it out. And then if he has good enough, I don't know, binoculars or a vantage point, he could hike all the way to the top of these mountains and literally watch law enforcement leave the area. So as of right now, they've cleared this entire area out. So I don't know if they expect to find his body from a self-inflicted wound or if they believe they may have overlooked something. And that was our theory, remember? Geoprofiling.
only leave some sort of an evidentiary search.
The Forest Service is working to get the word out now that people in the area will not be allowed to stay there beyond Sunday. A spokesperson for the FBI says they're hoping to provide an update by Monday. In the studio, Jim Nelson, King 5 News.
Okay, so they got information and they're worried. You know, they're telling everybody, hey, you got to leave by Sunday. We're going in here. And they don't want, it's almost as if they expect him to be alive, right? They don't want them to become a liability. Welcome in, Eli. Is that Cindy? Cindy's new. Boston. I can pray for and forgive Decker as he is mentally ill and suffers extreme PTSD. Why wouldn't the judge listen to mom as she warned them? There you go. See, Eli says, I think he has a Saddam type spider hole. So you got to start thinking like this man. This is a man who's dealt with a very evasive enemies. Right? He's trained in all these tactics. Not only is he trained in evasive tactics, he's trained to track these people. So he knows what to look for. He knows the ins and outs of evading capture. That's why I told you guys last time we covered the case, I believe they may have overlooked him. He might just be hanging out. Here, let me read some of these notes I had here. The manhunt for Travis Decker, a 32-year-old former Army veteran, accused of murdering his 3 daughters, Peyton, who was 9, Evelyn, who was 8, and Olivia, who was 5, in Washington State, remains ongoing as of August 24th, 2025. The girls were found dead on June 2nd, 2025, near the Rock Island campground. And that's what you guys are seeing here up on the screen now. I believe it was somewhere in this area here. Then they found his truck nearby. Recent updates from the Chelan County Sheriff's Office released on August 19th, 2025, confirmed Decker's DNA on the plastic bags and cable ties, also with the victim's DNA, indicating he acted alone. No other DNA profiles were found, solidifying Decker as the sole suspect, despite extensive searches across the Pacific Northwest. So there were a couple of sightings of him, but they actually found the people that they thought, were the guy, and it wasn't him. One of them even did an interview recently. John says, there's a lot of hiding places in the boulder formations as well as cliffs. He has a cache of supplies, possibly a solar-powered small generator. You can survive up there until winter hits, for sure. I think there's a good chance he's just laying low. Because think about it. He's not your typical criminal. I'm not saying he's like John Rambo or whatever, but I mean, kind of, right? In a way, he really is. Minus the Hollywood writing behind it. But I mean, that's basically what he's doing right now. He has the skills, he has the know-how, he has the knowledge to evade capture. So he's not your typical criminal. You can't just say like, oh, we're going to hit this area, and if we don't find him, he's not here. That's the one thing that upsets me when law enforcement is involved in any kind of search. Like, oh, we're not going to search here anymore. We're done searching in this area. We need to go. We're going to move everybody to this area, right? Without really considering, hey, did I overlook something? Well, with him, I feel like he would exploit that, right? That would be a good game plan. Okay, I'm going to hide out here. I'm going to be hiding in plain sight right under their nose. As soon as they get tired of this area, they'll move over. And he can even watch with his own eyes as they do it. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover. Super chat. Sorry, gotta go, but we'll watch on rewind wearing my Sleuth Crew hat. Shout out to Miss Dog Lover. Thank you for your support. Appreciate you. We're gonna do another giveaway pretty soon. Tears in Heaven. Welcome in, Barbara. How are you doing? All right, guys. We are now going to transition over. We're, for time's sake, because of time. So hopefully by Monday we'll have some good news. They're kicking everybody out of the Rock Island campground. Hopefully they know where he's at. Maybe they knew where he was all along and they pulled everybody out to kind of sit back and watch him. Remember, I told you that would be a good plan. Pull everybody out and then send a few, like a small group of very skilled military type men. You know, people who share the same skills and training and kind of know what to look for. Maybe that's what they did. Maybe they found signs of somebody living off the land, setting snares, people gathering wood, foraging, you know, maybe some things here and there, animal bones. What's up, Lynn? They could be closing trails to put up cameras. Oh, that's smart. Just hide them all over the place, huh? That's a good idea. Mills Light, what's up? Another creep from Washington State. What is it, Mills, about Washington? There's a lot going on over there in Washington. Wasn't Ted Bundy from Washington? Jeez. Barbara, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know, John. I don't know what's up with that. Boston. Sleuth, in your opinion, will he keep running and hiding if he is in his PTSD mode? I don't know. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about PTSD. So I don't know if it's anything like psychosis or what. But he's not acting like he's under psychosis. He's acting like, you know, with all the pre-planning and all of that stuff, you know, I don't feel like he's having hallucinations, audio or visual. I feel like he has some kind of an agenda. So he might be suffering from some kind of a mental breakdown, but I don't know if we could classify it as psychosis. I could be wrong. I mean, what the hell do I know? But just from what I've seen and what I've kind of taught myself about it or learned or read, whatever you want to call it. Starting to look more like a psychopath, you know? And maybe we'll figure out what his motive is. Cold and calculated. All right. There is some breaking news in regards to Emanuel Haro, but I'm going to show you that now. So apparently, Emmanuel's father, Jake, was taken out of jail and brought to this location here off the 60 in Moreno Valley. It's about a 20-minute drive from his home. So I think if you follow the 60 and get on the 10, I believe his home is over here somewhere. Pretty sure. Somewhere over here. Yeah, right here. Mill says also Gary Ridgway. Damn. Bundy killed in Washington and Oregon, and then Florida. Israel Keys. Jeez, the list. The list goes on. Okay, let me play a quick video. Here's the update that I saw, and then I'll show you some of the photos
a major
that I
turn in the
gathered.
search for a missing seven-month-old in the Inland Empire. Sky Cal live over Moreno Valley right now, where detectives brought baby Emmanuel's father out of jail to look to look at any possible remains. Right now, this is along the 60 freeway near Gilman Springs Road. The San Bernardino Sheriff's Office says they have not been able.
So remember, we talked about geoprofiling, and the typical anchor point for I don't know, a fledgling killer like this, we're assuming, is about 30 miles, in my opinion, from the information I've gathered. It's typical, 30 miles. So he drove all the way here. We can just measure that easily. About 20 miles. Can't remember where it was. Somewhere over here. Right here. You can tell because the shape of the road right here. So this is very similar to the place that we kind of pointed out over there near the Big Five, right? If that was their anchor point, maybe trying to mislead law enforcement, make them think that, hey, maybe expecting them to find Emanuel's body somewhere dumped nearby, saying, "Oh, well, this makes sense, right? He was kidnapped near Big Five," but instead, the anchor point is their own home. Very disorganized.
Able to find him, and they are wrapping up the search at this moment.
Yeah, here's what else we know. The baby's parents were, of course, arrested on suspicion of murder on Friday. We've been tracking this. Today, his mother, Rebecca, spoke to a reporter from the Press Enterprise from jail, saying she will not give up on her baby. Now, she insisted that Emanuel was kidnapped, despite authorities saying that she faked the story. She also said that she wishes she was out of jail looking for her baby. But
there are rumors that the father confessed as well, and that's why he was out there helping them. So what most likely happened, in my opinion, is that he did dump the baby right there. This is a dump site. But unfortunately, you have mountain lions, you have coyotes, wild dogs, you have all kinds of animals. So at this point, they're probably searching for remains, scattered remains. Unfortunately. And that's what's disgusting about what he did, right? He took the baby and just dumped him, knowing that he's just like trash. The animals out there, they don't know any better, right? They don't know. They're just like, oh, this is a food source. They have no clue. He's like, yeah, I left him right here. Right here is where I put him. Well, he's not going to stay there. I bet you they got all kinds of coyotes right here. Look, that even looks like a game trail right here. Unless that's them. Yeah, that might be them. Like it doesn't seem like he buried him or anything. He just threw him, just dumped him. Reminds me of the Dylan Redwine case. Mark Redwine dumped him and made it very difficult because he did the same thing here. It was about a 30-minute 30-mile anchor point, maybe less, maybe like 17 miles, side of a hill, and dumped Dylan. And the animals got to him. It took them months to find all of, the scattered bones and stuff like that. It was horrible. Let's pull up some of your photos, Mark. So this was Mark on scene, boots on the ground. If you want, Mark, you can post your channel. If you guys want to go over there and subscribe to his channel. This is boots on the ground from Mark. This looks like somewhere near the fire. Is that what I'm seeing here? Let me pull up some video from SF Investigates. Some part of his drone here. Let me pull up the fire folder. SF Investigates right here. Drone footage. So as you can see, it looks like you're right outside of this location right here. Is that right? Hey, what's up, Tech Death? Tech Death in the building. Okay, Emanuel House. Steps away. Okay. I wonder if there's any significance to this fire. My first thought was that there were some meth dealers right there, or maybe some drug dealers that were operating right there in that location. And because of what the Haros had done by killing Emannuel and drawing all this attention, now the block was hot. You know what I mean? They blew up their spot. So they burned up everything, hide all the evidence, and then moved on. I'm talking about because witnesses videotaped these guys fleeing the scene. And look, they have a bunch of shit. Their bags are packed. That shit looks suspicious. Very sus. So that was my initial thought. Good to see you, Tech. Inquisitive, what up? What are you up to? Hey guys, there's Mark's link to his channel if you want to go check him out. So maybe we found our California connection. This is right outside their property line, right? If you choose to leave candles, please ensure they are battery operated only. This is a highly susceptible area to fires, especially due to strong winds. Your caution is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Is that what started the fire? I can't believe they thought they were going to get away with this. That's the one thing I love about people today, especially social media. Like, you can't get away with shit. Right? If you do something horrible, like, we're going to track you down. Like, not only do you have to worry about law enforcement, but you have to worry about a bunch of nosy people online. Man, pretty powerful weapon, too, when we all work together. Yeah, they're definitely lighting candles here. You can see the wax, melted wax here. All secrets will be told. You will be something. I think that says Jesus, maybe. The Lord will, not sure, do his will, be his will. The hell's that? Why is there like crumbled up money? Boom, there you go. Louise is subbed up. You guys be like Louise. Yep, I agree, Louise. I agree. Even if we disagree, we all want the same thing.
Both parents are expected in court this week, and we're going to continue to update you on this search against SkyCal overhead as we watch this unfold, as well as the court case here on KCAL News.
Here's another one from Mark.
We're here for your baby. We're here for your baby. We don't care about you.
Who is this, Mark? Who is this lady? She's like, we don't give a shit about you. Where's the baby?
For your baby. We're here for your baby. We don't care about you. Where's that baby at? Come on, one of you got to roll over. Let's go.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Chop, chop.
Let's go.
I like her. Chop, chop. Here's that SF drone footage again. So Mark says we're talking steps away. And here he is. Jake Haro. Taken out of jail and taking them to what appears to be a dump site, perhaps. But unfortunately, if you dump a 7-month-old baby in the wilderness, the wildlife there are going to come and they will be attracted to it. And, you know, I wonder if he thought about that. Her name is Jamie Up North. Here, let's get some more Jamie Up North. Shout out to Jamie Up North.
We're here for your baby. We don't care about
Yeah,
you.
fuck you.
Where's that baby?
Where's the baby?
Come on, one of you got to roll over. Let's go. Where's baby Emannuel?
Roll over. Yeah, she's awesome. Chop, chop. Oh, wait, is that who that is? Bullhorn Betty? Nope, it's Jamie Up North. All right, I'll look forward to seeing that one. She's good. Aw, snap. Aw, shucks. All right, let's see where we're at here. Well, we are running out of time. That's it. That's the all the information I had as far as updates on Emannuel. Now let's get into some Ed Kemper. right? So why do we talk about serial killers? You know, is it because I'm fascinated with it? I have some morbid curiosity? No, it's because when pieces of shit like Jake Haro kill their child, we have a better understanding of where he may have placed the baby, what he might have been thinking, what his motivation might be. That's why we learn a lot from these types. So I think we're going to do this a little bit more often. So let's break down who was Ed Kemper. Right? When we have somebody like Brian Koberger or 4 college girls just randomly killed in a sorority house, that's why we look at Ted Bundy, right? That's why we look at people like that. So we can try to understand when it happens again. Sorry, just closing some of my windows here. Had too much up. All right. Edmund Emil Kemper III, born December 18th, 1948, in Burbank, California, is an American serial killer known as the Co-Ed Killer. Convicted of murdering 10 people, including his grandparents, mother, and 7 young women. And in his interviews, he refers to them as the girls, right? He always says, oh, the girls. His crimes span from 1964 to 1973, standing at 6 feet 9 inches and weighing around 250 to 300 pounds. Kemper's imposing physical presence contrasted with his high intelligence, with IQ scores reported at 136 and 145. His case is notable for its brutality, psychological complexity, and the insight it provides into the mind of a serial killer, partly due to his own candid interviews and cooperation with law enforcement. So we're going to show you some of his techniques of hiding in plain sight and befriending local law enforcement, not only to hide under their noses, but to gain information about the investigation against him. So he was high IQ and didn't even know it. So just because people look stupid and act stupid, when you throw them to the wolves, you know, you're going to see who's who and what's what. And apparently he was doing something very similar. Doing odd things to find this out, right? Like putting himself in prison, taking specific psychological tests and things like that. Here, let's watch a few clips. Let's see. Here's one of Ed Kemper.
Typical kids on the block were doing, to coming home from school that I didn't like anyway. And ironically, I have a high IQ. I didn't know that till I was locked up the first time.
See, he's like, he's like, apparently I'm really smart. I didn't fucking know that. I was told I was an idiot my entire life. So everybody, you know, they talk down on people like Richard Allen. Like, oh, he's just a fucking idiot. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do that. I mean, did you give him a test? Did you give him an IQ test? You don't know how smart he is. Maybe he just thinks he's stupid.
For murder. I always thought I was a little missing up here, a little short. Because I was always called stupid. I'm called slow. Don't you think when you do things? That was the problem. I wasn't thinking.
And also a big part of this is what we talked about the other night, right? When I was getting a little... we talked about early childhood trauma and the things that kids go through at a young age. You know, being brutally tortured and bullied and psychologically tormented by people who are supposed to be nurturing them.
When I did things.
There's one. I think I have another one. Let's see. This one's from 1981.
Saying I've wanted to kill my mother since I was 8 years old, and I'm not proud of that. It started with surrogates at a non-human level. Physical objects, my possessions, other people's, destruction of things that are cared about, and then destruction
the McDonald triad. The McDonald triad.
Of things that are living on a lower level, small animals, insects, animals, and then finally people.
Okay, you guys hold on a second. I'm going to have to reset my system. Every once in a while I get these weird audio glitches. So just bear with me here. We'll shut that off. We'll mute. Okay, hopefully that did it. Don't worry, you guys can't hear it, but I can hear it on my end. All right, let's learn a little bit more about this guy here. Okay, so let's look at his early life and childhood. Kemper's childhood was marked by significant trauma and dysfunction, which criminal psychologists suggest contributed to his later behavior. Right, just because you suffer these things doesn't mean that you're going to become like Mr. Kemper here. It's just one of those ingredients to the recipe of a disaster, right? The middle child of Clarnell Elizabeth Kemper and Edmund Emil Kemper Jr., Kemper had no older sister. Oh, excuse me. Kemper had an older sister, Suzanne, and a younger sister, Aline. His father, a World War II veteran and electrician, separated from Clarnell in 1957 and divorced in 1961, citing her domineering and abusive nature. Clarnell, described as a neurotic, alcoholic woman, possibly with borderline personality disorder, frequently belittled and humiliated Edmund, locking him in the basement at night out of fear he would harm his sisters. Wow. Talk about dysfunctional. What's going on, Pitbull? Mom, good to see you. Yeah, he's a giant. Yep, his remains will be scattered, CJK. That just adds to the disrespect to that young boy, that young baby. What's going on, bootleg? It's not like they got mad and then got even with some other dickhead at the bar. Lenny doesn't fit through the door. Hey, David. The stuff he did to his mom after he killed her. Wow. Yeah, we're talking about issues. He talks also about fantasizing nonstop. Remember, guys, that's why it's not like we can get into the mind of a killer, but we try, right? We do our best. We do our best if we can. And this guy had a lot of rage. He had a lot of early childhood trauma. Mm, 6'9", I believe, Lynn. 6'9". How you doing, Boston? Sleuth, do we need to pause and check on Miss? Boston, you let me worry about my family, all right? I appreciate that. All right, let me continue on here. Okay. Kemper exhibited antisocial and violent tendencies early on at age 10. He buried a family cat alive, later decapitating it and mounting its head on a spike. Jeez. So here's your red flags, guys. At 13, he killed another cat with a machete. He also mutilated his sister's dolls, removing their heads and hands, and played macabre games like Gas Chamber, where he pretended to die by asphyxiation. These behaviors align with the McDonald triad: animal cruelty, pyromania, and bedwetting, often associated with later violent tendencies. Kemper was close to his father, but felt abandoned when sent to live with his mother in Helena, Montana, after the divorce. At 14, he ran away to his father in California, only to find he had remarried and favored his stepson. Damn. Well, I wonder why. This guy's over here fantasizing about killing his sisters and his mother. Oh, God forbid he has another family and finds a stepson that he adores. God forbid. Kemper was then sent to live with his paternal grandparents in North Fork, California, which he resented, describing his grandmother as emasculating and his grandfather as senile. Jeez. Well, let's see. He murdered his grandparents in 1964. Well, let's go to bootleg here. There was a big dude at the jail my dad worked at. My mom used to make the clothes for this guy at home. His code name between my folks was Dillinger. My sister and I never heard his real name. Dillinger? That's crazy. That is crazy. August 27th, 1964, at age 15, Kemper committed his first murders. After an argument with his grandmother, Maud, what a name, Maud Matilda Kemper, he shot her in the head and twice in the back with a .22 caliber rifle, then stabbed her post-mortem. When his grandfather, Edmund Emil Kemper Sr., returned home, Kemper shot him in the driveway, later stating he did so to spare him the pain of finding his wife dead. Aw, right? That's his version of being sweet, right? I'm gonna shoot him in the head so he doesn't have to suffer the sight of his dead wife. Oh, thanks, Kemper. He's just misunderstood, right, guys? Just a little misunderstood. Kemper claimed he killed his grandmother to see what it felt like and described himself as a walking time bomb due to her domineering behavior. Remember the case of the serial killer who attacked the homeless man and cut off his head and kept it in his room and his mom found it? He said the same thing. Why'd you do it? We're looking for some elaborate motive. He says, I just wanted to know what it felt to kill. I'm constantly fantasizing about it. So we need to, that helps us get into the mind. Not that it's even possible to get into the mind of a killer, but I think that helps. Understanding that. Exactly, Red. He's just a misunderstood, but he's just a big teddy bear, really. He's just really, really misunderstood. You saw what he did for his grandfather, right? That was very nice of him. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and passive-aggressive traits, Kemper was committed to Atascadero State Hospital, a maximum security facility for mentally ill convicts. There, he engaged with psychological testing, learning psychiatric terminology, and manipulating assessments, which contributed to his perceived rehabilitation. So he was smart enough to fool the tests. Like some kind of psychological test, but he's so compartmentalized, he can just act like a normal person, knowing in the back of his mind that he's telling lies and that he's really, the devil. He was released on his 21st birthday in 1969, deemed safe to reintegrate against the advice of some psychiatrists. So his murder spree, co-ed killer, 1972 through 1973. Victims and MO. Between May 1972 and April 1973, Kemper killed 8 women. Marianne Pesci and Anita Lucchesa, both 18, hitchhiking Fresno State students. Hitchhikers, right? How does the serial killer get from point A to point B? Point A being fantasizing about murder, and point B getting to in a secluded location with his victim, where he can do whatever he wants and live out these fantasies. That's what the MO is. What's the mode of operation from A to point B? Apparently, in 1972, his mode of operation was to target these two girls hitchhiking. Right? He could have kidnapped the girls. That's one way to get from point A to point B. But instead, the same reason that a lot of these serial killers target prostitutes and sex workers and runaway girls is because sometimes they'll get into the vehicle. He can just skip the whole kidnapping part and say, hey, oh, you need a ride? Get on in. He's already accomplished step one of what he's trying to do. Let's see. September 14th, 1972, Ekuku, 15, was suffocated, raped, and dismembered. January 7th, 1973, Cynthia Ann Cindy Shao, 19, she was shot and dismembered. Why do they dismember? That way they can move the body without more easily and not look suspicious. Emily Pike, for example. February 5th, 1973, Rosalind Thorpe, 23, and Allison Liu, 20, were shot with their bodies subjected to necrophilia and dismemberment. Necrophilia, just like Ted Bundy and a lot of other killers. We don't hear about this in the news because they keep that part out of the news, but a lot of these sexual sadists who sexually assault their victims and then kill them will come back to the scene to see if they kind of left anything, any clues or evidence. And then they say to themselves, well, since I'm here, I might as well have sex with my victim. It's really mind-boggling. April 20th, 1973, Clarnell Strandberg, his mother, was bludgeoned with a claw hammer, decapitated, and violated. We all know what that means. Kemper also killed her friend, Sally Hallett, by strangulation and hid both bodies in a closet. Now, why didn't he just dismember his mother and do what he did before? Because he wanted to languish. Methods. Kemper lured victims into his Ford Galaxy, often using his size and gentle demeanor to gain trust. He killed them by strangulation, shooting, or stabbing, then took their bodies to his home or his mother's apartment for necrophilia, dismemberment, and sometimes cannibalism. We might as well be reading the same description of Gary Ridgway, identical. But now that we've learned a little bit about Ed Kemper, this is what I really wanted to talk about, was the way he was able to use his intelligence to hide in plain sight. And people who are susceptible to the manipulation of psychopaths or sadistic killers who are psychopaths, they miss these things, right? They miss these intelligent killers who kind of expect your reaction. They know how you're going to react, so they've already prepared a response to that reaction. They're not playing checkers, they're playing chess. They've been doing it their whole lives because they don't want anybody to know that they're fantasizing about murder and that they're thinking about killing people that are close to them and wanting to kill strangers. They've learned to hide that. That's why they call them chameleons. So check this out. Actually, you know what? We're going to pause here for a second. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Richard Allen said something similar in one of his confessions. Similar to what, Louise? Oh, ending it quickly. There you go. Yeah, I'm going to show remorse. I'm going to show remorse to the person that I'm brutally killing. You want to talk about an oxymoron. Oh, and all members, tomorrow we're going to hang out in the Discord. It looks like the murder sheet's going to be on with one of the Fox reporters. Go to the members only community page. I have it posted there. And if you're not part of the Discord and you are a member, shoot me an email. I'll get you in there. It should be around 5 p.m. Arizona time. So I guess 8 o'clock Eastern. But we'll hang out in the Discord and we'll watch that together. And we'll kind of comment and give our opinion on what we're seeing and the information that's being provided. Not against the rules. Here's the rules right here. Really, these are the only rules. Good to see you, Anthony. Chat rules, stay focused. Avoid becoming a distraction to the conversation, right? Don't just go on your own tangent about something that's not related to the conversation. No personal attacks. Respect all participants and refrain from insults or targeting individuals. No trigger trolling. Do not engage in or provoke disruptive behavior or arguments. And don't mention other channels. Keep discussions within current chat. Avoid referencing other channels. So really, that's more in a negative light. But if it's relating to this, like, hey, and it's a friendly channel, it's not an issue, that's totally fine. Here's a good example. Anthony France, staying on topic, but mentioning another channel. I remember that when Snay had Murder Sheet over to his house, that relationship went sideways. Yeah, it seems like any relationship, right? Seems to be a pattern. Very red flags of a narcissist, right? All right, we are all caught up on the chat. Ed Kemper, known as the co-ed killer, cultivated a calculated relationship with Santa Cruz police officers during his killing spree in the early 1970s, which allowed him to gather information about their investigations while evading suspicion. Standing at 6'9" and weighing around 300 pounds, Kemper was a towering, articulate figure with an IQ of 145, which he used to present himself as a harmless, affable individual. Despite being rejected from becoming a police officer due to his size, Kemper frequented a bar called the Jury Room, a popular hangout for local cops located near the Santa Cruz courthouse. Not the police station as sometimes misreported, he described himself as a friendly nuisance at the bar, where he built a rapport with officers who nicknamed him Big Ed. I think I have some photos of this place here. Here's one, the Jury Room. And this is inside. So here's a bad example of mentioning another channel, unrelating to the conversation. How many lives did Kemper take? Let's see. I think 7, 8, 9. I think 11. Here, I'm going to look right now. So he killed his grandparents, his mother, her friend, and then 7 girls. Yeah, he should have played football. He seemed like a gentle giant, but was a monster in disguise. Yeah, kind of like Rex Heuermann. When you watch his little work videos, he's like, I'm Rex Heuermann. He just seems like this, like a dad. Because when it's lights, camera, action, the chameleon, right, puts on the camouflage, puts on the mask. And the demon is compartmentalized in a little box in the back of the mind. When they're all alone and they could cross-dress and get into, the sadistic stuff, start, in privacy, they'll show that. Kind of like the BTK. Okay, let's continue on here. Okay, so Kemper's interactions were strategic. He would buy drinks for officers and engage them in casual conversations to glean details about the progress of the investigation into the murders he committed. FBI profiler John Douglas noted that Kemper's fascination with authority gave him a vicarious thrill of a policeman's power and a direct line into the investigation, allowing him to allow him to anticipate police movements. For example, he learned what clues the police had, which helped him avoid detection while he murdered 6 female college students. His mother, her friend, and earlier his grandparents. His ability to blend in was so effective that when he called the Santa Cruz police from Pueblo, Colorado on April 24, 1973 to confess to the murders, officers initially thought it was a prank by their friend Big Ed and didn't believe him until he insisted and requested to speak to an officer he knew personally. Thank you, Mark. Tell me. Kemper's relationships with police were not deep friendships, but rather manipulative acquaintanceships. He leveraged his intelligence and charm to appear non-threatening, a tactic he also used to lure victims. Douglas, who interviewed Kemper extensively, highlighted that his behavior reflected Kemper's desire for control and power, traits central to his criminal psyche. Some sources exaggerate the extent of his police connections, but Kemper himself clarified he knew only 2 or 3 agents and used these interactions to stay ahead of the investigation. Inspired partly by his reading of Crime and Punishment, his ability to socialize with police while committing heinous crimes underscores his cunning and psychological complexity, what made him a subject of fascination for criminal profilers. And that's really all I had on Ed Kemper. Was somebody who was so smart and so compartmentalized, he was hiding with law enforcement. And, not like Richard Allen, who was just hiding in the small town at the local CVS. This guy was literally interacting and becoming friendly with law enforcement. Not just law enforcement, but lead investigators who were hunting him. Okay, so let's jump into Aleister Crowley. I don't really have any images or visuals. We're just going to go through some notes, and then I think this will even segue into what we're trying to do, transition into what we're going to be talking about as far as the Delphi murders. Here, maybe I'll put the thumbnail on. So that's Aleister Crowley down there at the bottom. Maybe I'll put something up on the screen. There you go. So a lot of people talk about Delphi being a ritualistic killing. And recently we've been talking a lot about the West Memphis 3 case and Damien Echols specifically in his interest in Thelema, which is basically a religion created by Aleister Crowley. So it's kind of like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because it's not Odinism doesn't mean that Richard Allen wasn't participating maybe in some kind of a ritual that involved sex magic, black magic, things like that. I feel like we beat the Delphi horse dead already. Well, you don't have to stick around for that part. If you're background painting the half dome at Yosemite, it's not a painting. It's like I don't know what you call those. It's like a piece of fabric. Anthony France was the Aussie song Mr. Crowley about him sleuth. Yep. Mr. Crowley. Yeah, a lot of people who are into rock and roll like Aleister Crowley. Cindy, I think I did. I'll watch it again. Thanks, Pitbull. All right, let's get into this. Hold on. My notes are not as organized as I thought. Okay, so I was looking at other cases that might have been involving some type of fixation on Aleister Crowley. And one of the cases that I did find was Edward Alexander Crowley, originally Henry Allen Bibby. Murder of Diego Pinheiro Villar happened in 2000 in the UK, London. So Edward Crowley, born Henry Allen Bibby, was convicted of murdering 12-year-old Diego Pinheiro Villar in Covent Garden, London on May 7th, 2000. He stabbed Diego over 30 times and also injured Diego's 15-year-old stepbrother, Roberto, who tried to intervene. Edward Crowley, then 52, had legally changed his name to mirror Aleister Crowley's birth name, Edward Alexander Crowley, indicating a fixation on the occultist. He was obsessed with Diego, having formed an inappropriate relationship with the boy, buying him gifts and expressing romantic feelings. Police found an inscription in Latin reading, "Diego must die," and diagrams related to sacrifices in his possession at the time of his arrest, suggesting an occult influence. Edward Crowley was described as an obsessed fan of Aleister Crowley, adopting his name and reportedly influenced by his occult writings. While no direct evidence links the murder to Thelemic rituals, the name change and occult paraphernalia does suggest a fixation on Aleister Crowley. Edward Crowley was eventually sentenced to life in prison. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I misplaced some of the information that I was going to present to you. Let's start here. So, reputation. Crowley's controversial persona. Dubbed the wickedest man alive by the press, a label fueled by his rejection of his strict Plymouth Brethren Christian upbringing. Openly bisexual, right? Like Jason Baldwin and Damien Eccles. Openly bisexual, drug use, and libertine lifestyle. His embrace of the title The Beast, 666, inspired by a revelation and his mother's nickname for him. So there you go. Early childhood trauma, right? Just like Ed Kemper, being called a beast. His mother's nickname for him shocked Victorian sensibilities, contributing to perception of him as a sinister figure. Crowley's establishment of the Abbey, remember that, Abbey, of Thelema in Cefalu, Sicily, 1920 to 1923, an experimental commune, was marred by scandals, including allegations of debauchery and the death of a follower, Raoul Loveday, from drinking contaminated water. Mussolini expelled Crowley from Italy in 1923, amplifying his notoriety. Additionally, Crowley's heroin addiction, right, Brian Koberger, financial ruin, and provocative writings fueled public outrage. Crowley's integration of sexual magic into Thelema, particularly through the Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO, which has a connection with Freemasonry on the more darker levels, led to accusations of immorality. His rituals, like the Gnostic Mass and his exploration of taboo subjects, were often misconstrued as Satanism or hedonism, though Thelema emphasizes disciplined pursuit of true will over base desires. Yeah, it's a good song. I have a cat named Aleister. That's funny. Yeah, it's very interesting, the things that he says. All right, Crowley's psychological and cultural context. Crowley's rebellion against the repressive Plymouth Brethren sect, which included physical discipline and labeling him a beast from childhood, shaped his rejection of conventional morality. Scholars suggest this trauma, right? There's always this early childhood trauma, fueled his creation of Thelema as a laboratory counterpoint to Christian dogmatism, emphasizing individual will over external authority. Crowley's bisexual and occult practices challenged the era's rigid norms, aligning him with other sexual visionaries like Edward Carpenter. His philosophy reflected broader cultural shift towards individualism and esoteric exploration, but his flamboyance made him a lightning rod for criticism. Okay, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time, but I thought it was interesting. So let's see. Thelema, there's a connection with Abbey and the word liberty. So I found that kind of interesting. It could be nothing, most likely is nothing, but I'll let you guys be the judge. So the Abbey of Thelema, Crowley established the Abbey of Thelema in 1920 in Sicily as a commune to practice Thelema. His spiritual philosophy centered on do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. The term abbey was inspired by Francois Rabelais' Gargantua and Pantagruel in 1564, where the fictional abbey of Thelema is a utopian community free from dogma, emphasizing personal freedom. Crowley adopted the name to reflect his vision of a place for spiritual and magical exploration, free from societal constraints. The abbey hosted rituals, meditations, and experiments in magic, including sexual practices and drug use, which led to its scandalous reputation. The death of follower Raoul Loveday in 1923 from drinking contaminated water fueled media outrage, leading to Crowley's expulsion from Italy. The Abbey's association with darkness stems from these events and Crowley's provocative persona. The term Abbey in Crowley's context is purely symbolic. There's no evidence linking anything linking directly to the name Abbey. Okay, what about liberty in Thelema? The concept of liberty is central to Thelema, encapsulated in the maxim, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, paired with love is the law, love under will. In Thelema, liberty means pursuing one's true will, a divinely inspired purpose, while respecting others' freedom to do the same. Crowley viewed this as a disciplined liberation from societal, religious, and psychological constraints, not as license for chaos or harm. Crowley's essay, Liber Oz, in 1941, explicitly outlines Thelemic rights, declaring freedoms like the right to live, love, and die by one's will. This concept of liberty was radical for its time, challenging Victorian norms, but it's unrelated to criminality or violence. The connection to Libby or liberty. Liberty, German's name, derives from the common English term for freedom, often used as a nickname for Elizabeth. There's no evidence suggesting her name has a Thelemic significance. Speculative connections arise only from the coincidence of her name aligning with Thelema's emphasis on liberty. So we're going to transition over to the Delphi crime scene. We could have gone down a rabbit hole on that one, but so here, let's start with this. He wasn't allowed to. They deemed it inadmissible. They didn't let his confession in either, and they were still convicted. There you go. Yeah, Crowley's a creepy one. We could have got into Madame Blavatsky. Aleister Crowley says that she's the one that's actually responsible for the Jack the Ripper murders and that she was doing sex magic. Makes you wonder about the Delphi case, right? Okay. So there's still a lot of people who believe that Abby and Libby were killed as part of some kind of a ritual killing. So what I'm striving to do here is to show you guys how one person could have done this, specifically Richard Allen. So what we're doing here is basically starting from the point that the white van drives by. Richard Allen has already forced Libby to completely undress. So the black kind of represents nudity. Abby only nude from the waist down. Richard Allen, I'm assuming, has no shoes on, may even have his pants off, somewhere in the background here. And as the girls see the white van and see Richard Allen get startled, use that as their opportunity to pick up their clothing and run across the creek. Cindy says, we have a customer leaving random tarot cards in different places. My assistant store leads has found 2 of them. It's like an exciting game for him. Yikes. I'd be careful with that one. Not that it has much to do with Crowley, but kind of fits in odd things, right? Yeah, it does. Can we learn from that? So the reason we looked at Ed Kemper is because he's somebody that appears to be low IQ, but instead was extremely high IQ, and it enabled him to hide in plain sight. So these people who are susceptible to the manipulation of psychopaths may be falling victim to Richard Allen's manipulation, his way of hiding in plain sight, looking like an idiot, when in fact he's not as dumb as he may appear. Yeah, don't touch him. Might have fentanyl on him or something. Okay, so let's get into this. there's just so many little details. It's not going to be like a smooth presentation, but just try to keep up. So we know at this very point right here, Abby and Libby dropped some clothing. And let's pull up those photos now. I think that was one of Abby's socks. Libby dropped one of her shoes. This is Abby's hoodie right here, balled up and thrown to the ground. And this is Libby's t-shirt. So now while they're trying to escape, the only way that they would have had time to get away from Richard Allen, cross the creek, and make it as far as they did was because he had to do something on this side of the creek. To me, that was him putting on his pants and his shoes. I think he had gotten as far as Abby, right? He forces Libby to completely strip naked. And right as Abby is doing the same thing, so is he. He feels comfortable here. It makes you wonder, why does Richard Allen feel so comfortable to take young girls where he did and strip them nude? Has he done that before? You know, makes you wonder why he felt comfortable doing that. Well, either way, before Libby could completely strip down, here comes the van. Weber comes driving up over the private drive. The girls pick up all of their clothing. Actually, hold on. We need these over here. So she had pants and I believe a hoodie. There it is. Okay. So Libby drops a shoe here. Where's her shirt? Hold on. There it is. Tie-dye shirt. Libby drops her hoodie. All right here. Unfortunately, she had dropped her pants a little bit further out in the middle of the creek, and those were taken down by the current. So there's no option. She only has one option for pants at all. Okay. So we can completely get rid of these here. Gone. Gone. And gone. So now they've crossed the creek. Richard Allen is right behind them. Now, the one thing that you notice here about this is supposed to be Libby. With her clothing in her arms the way that it is, what is exposed? So Richard Allen was forced in his mind to swim through cold water, tread through that ice cold water. He's pissed. He doesn't even hesitate. Doesn't even hesitate. He gets right in front of the girls, catches up to them, and he just starts cutting her throat. He doesn't even stop until she turns away. Okay, so if he's going to attack her there in the throat area, that artery right there, that's what he's going for. That's why there's no defensive wounds. She can't even put her arms up. She's just holding on to her clothing. Probably using it to cover herself too. Okay, so at that point, we can hide these arms. Right? She opens her arms. She's going to drop the clothing right next to her. She drops the shoe. She drops the phone. She drops the hoodie that says Delphi Swim Team on it. And she also drops her pants. Okay, so what we're doing is we're explaining why there's no DNA. So if Richard Allen touched them on the south side of the creek, that would have all been destroyed as they, were stumbling through the water. That includes DNA on Richard Allen, and that includes his DNA on the girls. So there's absolutely nothing good from the south side when they were forced to undress and when Richard Allen took them down the hill. All of that has been erased. Boom. By crossing through the creek. So why wouldn't there be any DNA over here? Well, the thing is that it's not like there was some other guy's DNA, right? Well, how is it possible that Richard Allen didn't leave his DNA at the crime scene? Well, there was no guy's DNA at the crime scene. If the killer was some other dude, where's his DNA? So it's not like it's just Richard Allen's DNA wasn't there. There was no male DNA at all. So it's not like, oh my God, I can't believe Richard Allen's DNA wasn't at the crime scene. No male DNA was there at all. So it's not like he was some kind of mastermind. It's just not expected. Right? They didn't find some unknown male DNA and that's the killer. No, they just didn't find any male DNA at all. Something very faint, I think. Which should be expected, right? If you're living in homes with males, or it could be Richard Allen. People forget that, right? It's not like they didn't find Richard Allen's and there was some other guy's DNA there. They didn't find any male DNA. So are you telling me that you believe that the killer is a female? Right? So if you're supporting the innocence of Richard Allen, it cannot be another man based on the DNA. That argument is flawed. It's a fallacy. There were no male DNA. None. Okay, so she would drop all the clothing on the ground. Let's see. And then now, oh, not those hands. Bear with me. Oh, here it is. Hands on the throat. Okay. So we know that she had blood on her hands. So he's going to attack her in the throat to hit that main artery. That's his goal. I just want to unalive these girls so that they don't tell my wife what I did. So she drops the clothing. It's right here on the ground, right next to both of the girls. Here's the clothing that Abby will end up putting on here in a few minutes after what's happening here. Hands to the throat. We'll turn around. We can take this one off of here. Right? Touches the tree. Also, at the crime scene, they found a pool of blood right here. So most of the blood's going to be on the clothing, right, from the initial attack. Small pool here because she turned around, leans against the tree because she's getting very, very dizzy, which is expected with that type of wound. Okay, we'll leave tree marking up there. So now we have Richard Allen taking his attention to Abby. Now this explains why we have a bullet casing right there on the ground. Now I don't know if I have a bullet here or not. Yep. Looks like I didn't forget anything. So He's intimidating her. Bullet drops right here on the ground. Smack dab in the middle of the crime scene. He tells her, "Get dressed while I figure this out." So I think we can drop this background and then move, actually transition to something else. Hold on. I'm going to open it up. So after he forces Abby to get redressed, he tells her to sit down. Well, while she was getting dressed, she now has her hands on this shoe and Libby's phone that she's hiding. We found out during the trial that somebody tried to access the phone. Well, Libby was able to access the phone, but she could have been covered in mud, or the phone could have been muddy or bloody. So Richard Allen is going to tell her to sit over here. I need to hide you behind this tree. She's now sitting on top of the phone and the shoes, Indian style. Richard Allen standing right here trying to figure out what to do. Well, he decides that he has to kill Abby. Remember, she was sitting Indian style on the shoe and the phone, and that's where they found it. And you guys all know the rest. He dragged Libby by her arm. This is why her arm is kind of sticking out like this. And he also has her in an angle to keep her hidden behind the same tree. So that's how you explain the no DNA, no defensive wounds, why Abby was redressed in Libby's clothing, and why the phone and one shoe was found under her person, and why she was covered in sticks. That's what happened. That was all done by one man. So let me close that out. All right, guys. On that note, I'm going to take a quick little restroom break so I can go to the bathroom and grab a water. And then we're going to finish up with some brain games. Should be interesting. So we'll hang out in the chat a little bit. If you guys need to grab water, go to the restroom, I recommend you do it now. Alrighty, alrighty. What'd I miss? Okay, so some of you might already have played this game or know the answers. And if you do already know, please don't spoil it for everybody else. It's not going to make you look super smart. It's just going to annoy me. You can help with tips and tricks on how, what they should be looking for. And we're going to go through some of that now. But for those of you who haven't played this game, they call it a brain teaser. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So yeah, if you've already played this, don't ruin it for others. Let's move that off the screen. Later, Red. Take care. Have a great day. Have a great night and a great day tomorrow. Okay, who's the killer? So we're going to do 2 of these that I've already know the answer, and then there's 3 of them that I don't. Okay, so here are some tips and tricks when you're kind of playing these types of brain teasers here. Okay, so take a quick look at the whole scene to identify the victim, suspects, and the environment. This gives you context for where clues might appear. Examine the victim's body for clues, blood stains, weapons, or torn clothing. Know any objects near the victim that might link to a suspect. So somebody in this restaurant is the killer. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And our victim appears to be in the ladies' restroom. So if you guys are going to guess at who it is, we're only accepting guesses with reasons why. I don't want to hear, oh, it was the waiter. I need to hear it's the waiter because of this, this, and that. Okay, so who do you guys think is the killer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and tell me why. Lynn says, I think it's number 4 because of the ripped shirt. This ripped shirt? What about it? Number 4 has blood on the neck. Sure you're not being fooled? Okay, analyze each suspect. Look for physical evidence on suspects, scratches, torn clothing, or missing items. Right? It can't be number 3 because she still has her knife. So it looks like the knife that was used to stab the victim is the same knife that you're provided at the dining area. Knife missing, blood on the neck. Louisa is number 2, no steak knife, and ordered a steak. Nope, steak knife in his hand. So here we'll do close-ups. So he's got one in his hand. The waiter has access to knives. And number 1 doesn't have a knife. But number 3 does. Rodolfo, welcome in. I think it's number 2 who's eating a steak with her hands. No, there's a knife there. Sorry. Let's do a close-up on the crime scene. So you have the knife here. Looks like a steak knife. A piece of a torn shirt. So what if she got in a fight with this guy and took her own life? Buttering bread. Yeah, it looks like a steak bone, but I think he's actually holding a knife. And this looks like butter. So maybe buttering bread, yeah. Anthony says, have no clue. Oh, ripped shirt right there. Okay. Consider the proximity. The suspect closest to the crime scene is often more likely to be the killer, as it suggests opportunity. The closest person to the bathroom was number 4. So number 4 has blood on his neck. The tear in his shirt matches the fabric at the crime scene. There's no steak knife at his table. And he has kind of like this look on his face, right? They gave him like evil eyebrows. So he's definitely should be the number 1 suspect. But is he the killer? Is he the one? Okay, if the victim's wound is on the right side, the killer might be left-handed. Check which hand the suspects are using, or if a sling. Oh, yeah, don't mind that. Watch for red herrings. There are 2 chairs at table 3, and purse is at an empty chair. That's a good point. So what if it's a self-inflicted wound? Number 1, lifting cup with left hand. Yeah, her wound, I can't really tell. It looks like it's right in the middle, though. Okay, the image shows a restaurant with a woman's restroom on the left, where a woman lies dead on the floor in a pool of blood with a knife near her body. In the dining area, 5 individuals are labeled as suspects. Suspect number 1, man in the blue shirt, sitting at the rightmost table. Suspect number 2, man in a purple shirt, sitting at the centermost table. Suspect number 3, woman in a pink dress, sitting at the right corner table. Suspect number 4, man in blue, sitting at the leftmost table near the restroom. Suspect number 5, the waiter serving drinks and food. All right, let's look at suspect number 4. Missing knife. A knife is found near the victim in the restroom, suggesting it's the murder weapon. Suspect number 4's table is missing a knife, while other patrons have both a knife and fork. He's eating with the fork or both hands, indicating he may have left his knife at the crime scene. Torn shirt and cloth evidence. Suspect number 4's shirt is ripped at the bottom. A piece of cloth matching his shirt is found next to the victim, suggesting it was torn during a struggle. Rodolfo says she's table number 3's cousin. She was visiting from Albuquerque. The guy on table 4 saw them outside, tried getting her number. She loudly said, "Leave me alone." He killed her when she went to the restroom. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Physical signs of a struggle. Suspect number 4 has a scratch on his neck, which could indicate resistance from the victim during the attack. What about suspect number 3, woman in the pink dress? Some argue she's the killer because the murder occurred in the woman's restroom, implying only a woman could enter without suspicion. This assumes strict gender norms, but I think, like a man could sneak in there. Man could sneak in the woman's restroom. The waiter has no specific physical evidence, torn clothing or scratches linking him to the crime. His mobility is not unique evidence. And the blood on the towel claim lacks corroboration. Yeah, I don't see any blood on the towel. No blood on the towel. Suspect number 1 and number 2. These suspects are dismissed because they're seated far from the restroom and no specific clues, like a missing knife or a torn shirt, point to them. Some suggest the killer isn't in the restaurant or that it's a suicide. But the rules specifically states the killer is among the 5 suspects. All right, so let me do this. All right, go ahead and tell me who you guys think it is. Who is the killer? And then I'll tell you. Mark says the only crime the waiter is guilty of is those tight pants. They do seem a little bit restrictive. Yeah, suspect number 4 looks very suspicious. He's got evil eyes. He's got a scratch on the neck. No knife at the table. His shirt's missing some fabric at the bottom and matches what's found at the crime scene. Louise says 4. Hey, bad actors, what's up? Says 4. Lynn says 4. Pitbull says 4. 3. Cindy's new says 3. Well, she is sitting pretty close to the restroom. She has 2 chairs at her table. And yeah, the purse is right here. Empty chair at the bar. Those might just be peanuts. But yeah, there is a glass here. Jari says 4. Good to see you, Jari. Seems obvious, but I don't know. Mark says 4. All right, you guys ready? All right, the answer is number 4. Number 4 is the killer. You got the blood on the neck. You got the evil eyes. You got the missing knife and the fabric missing that matches the crime scene. I'm sure if we go ahead and run fingerprints on the blade, we got him. All right, good job, guys. Good job. All right. All right, I got a couple more of these for you. This one's a little bit tougher. Well, it was for me. Okay, who hurt the man in the changing room? Over here. Now, remember the rules. You got to look at what happened with the victim. Where's the wound? What kind of situation is going on over here? And then we're going to look for clues. All right, take a close look. All right, you have the cashier. What do we see here? We got a man with money. He's got keys in his pocket, holding a bag. There appears to be a receipt. Some clothes in the background. What's going on with this guy? This looks sus. This looks like some Ted Bundy shit right here. Excuse me, ma'am. Can you help me with the sofa? Do you need help with that? Would you? Name that movie. Cindy sees runes. No, you don't. No, you don't. All right. Who hurt this guy? Okay, the man has been stabbed. Can't self-harm himself. He has been stabbed in the chest, and no pointed or sharp object is seen nearby, with which he could have accidentally hurt himself. So what do we notice? What do we see? What's going on with this guy here? Lynn, why though? Why is it the guy purchasing clothes? To me, it looks like it just happened. Right, he's not dead. He looks like he might be dying. He's bleeding out. This guy looks like he's been here for a minute. So is it the cashier, the guy buying something, buying an item, or this guy looking suspicious with his arm wrapped up? All right, we're almost out of time. The lady sitting in the billing counter and the man handing over cash to her are engaged in a transaction. Lynn says he's leaving. Cast guy has a knife in it. The hiding a knife? Here, let's read the answer here. Okay, the lady sitting in the billing counter and the man handing over cash to her are engaged in a transaction, which usually takes 5 to 10 minutes. The woman's printing machine can be seen releasing the receipt, which means that they have been busy with the transaction for quite some time now. Pitbull Mom, what's up? I think the injured guy fell and hit the corner of that shelf personally. So part of the rules are he didn't self-harm. So the suspect is one of these three people here. So you have this guy here with the bag in his hand. So he's been shopping enough to hand her items to ring up. She has a receipt and she's still punching up some numbers. So I feel like he's been there for a minute. This guy's looking hella suspicious. Okay, however, a man with a cast coming all alone for shopping shirts looks fishy. How would he try his shirts, and why wouldn't he come, and why would he come unassisted? Moreover, a cast is a perfect hiding place for a weapon. Another important thing to note is that the man has been stabbed on his left side, which means a left-handed person should have stabbed him. The lady at the billing counter and the man standing opposite to her are right-handed. See that? She's typing with her right hand and he's handing the money over with his right hand. The wound, oops. The wound is on his right side of his body. And the guy with the cast, his left arm is free. Another important thing to note is that the man has been stabbed on his left side, which means a left-handed person should have stabbed him. All right. So the answer is the man in the cast. Ted Bundy over here. She doesn't know what she's doing. He's actually the real worker. He's the real worker. She stabbed him. And in order not to get caught by these two guys, she's acting like she works here. Bad actors wins. All right, guys. Actually, I think that's going to do it. I had a couple more, but they're just kind of silly. Let's see. Like this one here. Who killed the teacher? All right, you got a guy with a bag of pencils. Strange reaction. This guy's like hiding something in his sock. Shocked. Not quite sure what the hell she's doing. So there was that one. I think I have another one. Oh, that was the flyer or the thumbnail. Oh, here it is. Which mom is the kidnapper? Kid with the pencils. That's what I said. So which kid is the kidnapper? This one looks literally handcuffed and sad. Mom seems normal. No clues on her. Looks like maybe just a jacket back here. I'm not sure what that is. This woman right here is carrying a bag. What is that? Like a yoga mat? Seems to be smiling. And has a bag here. Actually has a baby bag. And looks like whatever this is has blood on it. Maybe it's just a stain. Now this woman, she looks very suspicious. She has a look in her eye. I don't know, is that a baby bottle? And the kid looks a little big to be in a stroller. Yeah, this kid looks drugged, right? He's drugged. This is the source that she used to drug the child. Yeah, I think you might be right. Plus, look, these two women are smiling. And she looks very suspicious. And they all have bags, so. Yeah, this must be the kidnapper. And I really don't know. I'm not sure. But that's going to do it, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. And remember, we are 100% crowdfunded. So if you could hit the Cash App, that'd be greatly appreciated. It'll all go towards boots on the ground. If you can't hit the Cash App, hit the like button. Consider becoming a member. Tomorrow we will be getting together in the members only Discord for a watch party. The Murder Sheet is going to be talking about their new book, and they'll be doing it with Fox News. It should be pretty long, I think 30 to 40 minutes. I don't know the answer on those last ones, Louise. Yeah, those are the ones that I didn't find the answers to. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover, for the 8-month flex and the $4.99 super chat. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for your generosity. And if you guys could, please share the video. Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out. If you need to get a hold of me for whatever reason, you can reach me at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care of yourselves.
I rest my case.